Welcome to the Personal Development Mastery Podcast. I'm Agi Keramidas and my mission is to inspire you to rise up, grow, stand out and take action towards the next level of your life. I interview leaders, influencers, entrepreneurs, authors, exceptional people who can and will inspire you to improve your life. Tune in for 2 episodes each week and make sure you subscribe to the podcast to get the episodes as soon as they are released. In today's show, I am delighted to speak with Dhru Shah. Dhru, you are the founder and CEO of Dentinal Tubules, an online community sharing education and knowledge between dentists. It actually is the UK's and probably the world's largest dental portal. You are an avid reader, a philosopher, I would say, and you're passionate about the science of passion, and your mission is to ignite that passion in others. Dhru, an absolute joy to speak with you today.
Thank you. I'm glad we're back. I think it's been about a year and a bit since we did the last podcast, so I'm absolutely delighted to be back chatting further.
Yeah, me too. So it was actually July 2019, so a year and a half since...
wow, time has flown then.
Since we spoke. So, Dhru, since that time, if I were to ask you to share with me something in your story, a breakthrough or milestone that has happened that maybe can set the tone for the conversation ahead, what would you say?
Do you know what? I'll tell you something very, very interesting. I think when we last spoke, we were talking about passion, we were talking about psychology of passion, we were talking about all of that. And the biggest breakthrough for me since then has been to actually try and figure out Passion is a fire, right? Passion is a fire burning inside you, but no fire happens without a spark. And the key journey about me has been about trying to figure out where the hell does a spark come from. And I think that's the biggest breakthrough. It has probably taken me 42 years, and perhaps it was the latter end of last year that I figured out my spark. And that's the interesting part. So everyone says, figure out your passion, find your passion. And I've kind of stepped one back and said, figure out your spark. The passion will come automatically. And so that's a breakthrough. That's a massive breakthrough. Because I shared a video with you, I guess about a week or 2 weeks ago by Ken Robinson about the element. But once you discover your spark, you will be in your element, and you will then discover your passion, and you'll just be a different person altogether. So it's a really, really good place to be. And I think that's the big breakthrough I've had.
It sounds like a big one indeed, an important one. So about that spark then that you would say, can you expand a little bit on that? Is it the spark? Because the spark feels like a moment, something very... It's small in time. So how do you explain that spark?
I think, you know what, the best way I can put it to you is to say that when you do certain things, right, certain activities, you're naturally drawn to them. You're attracted to them. You have an affinity. Time flies. You kind of don't realize why you're doing it, and it just happens, right? And after doing that activity, you actually feel energized. Yes, you may be physically or mentally tired, but emotionally, spiritually, you just feel like, whoa, I've done something. And you know this, right? There's certain things you do. No one needs to tell you to do them. They just happen. And there are certain activities where we sit down and go, do I really have to do this? You know, you don't want to do it, you have to do it. And there's a difference. So it's these things you have a natural affinity to. So outside. But actually that's coming from within you. Knowing who you are or working out what resonates with you. And the spark, I probably have been living my spark for about 15 years or whatever with the Tubules project, right? And every time I used to do it, and whether, I didn't have an income from it, and I used to put long hours, and I used to sleep 2 hours a night for it, people think you're mental if you're not getting any material gain from it. But actually, there was a huge spiritual, emotional, just something I loved doing. It was passionate, right? And so I sat there and thought, where's this spark coming from? And that's why I sat down. And I tell you what, the spark is basically what lights you up, what gives you that spiritual, emotional energy. It's just phenomenal because you do it naturally. You do it because you love it. You do it because you flow in it. And it's really a combination. When you think about a spark in electricity, it's two wires coming together, right? Two currents, two powerful currents that just go whoop, and it lights a spark up. And in the wrong place, a spark can be dangerous, but in the right place, it can light up an entire building, it can light up an entire city. Now, you think about that. Here's the two wires. The wire is who you are and how it connects to that experience on the outside that resonates with you. And sometimes it'll happen like this. Yes, you'll just, stumble on it. And sometimes you'll develop because you do experience after experience after experience after experience, and something just resonates with you. You've got to be open-minded. I think as humans, we are very linear in our thinking. When someone says, make a plan, make some goals, yeah, go for it. And you become very linear in the way life happens. I'll go from A to B, I'll go from B to C, I'll go from C to D. Actually, that's not the case. You've got to be open to experience because you don't know what's going to resonate with you. And I think that's part of where the spark comes from.
Absolutely. I agree completely with you, Dhru. And actually, what you said now about being open-minded and not linear in your thinking, there was something that we were discussing on our previous conversation that I really enjoyed, especially when I was looking back, when I was listening back to the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
It's very relevant to this. So you were talking at that time about how a key ingredient to living a fulfilled life is to have, you called it joyous exploration. That's exactly what will trigger the spark, because you are trying different things, different activities, projects, whatever it is, ideas, with this positive expectation, with this joy, as you say, because you're exploring, you are journeying, you're questing into something.
Yes, that's right. And that's the word I was just going to put in, quest.
Yes.
You don't know what's going to come. So when someone says set a goal, and when we set a goal, it's all about the result. But actually the real goal is the process, enjoying the process and going on the quest, because you don't know where that quest will lead you. And what I tell people is have a goal and put mini steps in that goal, and each mini step achieve it and see and reflect and think, where are you? Because when you try and take that mini step, you don't know what experiences will come off. Mm-hmm. Reflect back. Is the goal really what you want to achieve? Things are going to change. And that's the evolution that creates the spark within you. And once you find your spark, it's something that resonates so much with you that you will develop that passion, that energy to completely grow into it. Now, if you remember, I was telling you the characteristics of passion, about having an intense love, how you spend time gaining that knowledge for it, how you find the right environment, the right community. Well, all of these things come because you love what you do, and you're pretty much, you're in your element, as Ken Robinson says. So such a key to goal setting. This is what I tell people. Once you set a goal, people say make a plan. Now, let's go back to our education system. And you probably had the same thing, right? And someone said, look, here's your plan. You get into your primary school or your first school, you pass your exams. You pass your exams, you apply for the next exam. And you get to the higher school and you move on and you apply for university and you carry on. And the whole thing is a linear plan of 25 years to tell you you'll get a job that'll earn you good money so that you can have a house and a car, which is fine. Nothing wrong with that. The only problem with that linear plan is how many times have we, in our linear plan, lost the spark? And how many times have we missed out, or perhaps not just been open to experiences that would have enlightened us further? Now, that's what we've got to think. Yes, you need an income. Yes, you need a linear plan. And yes, you need security. But beyond that, you've got to think wider. You've got to think with a bit more open mind. And I suppose I can say, I'm a dentist, you're a dentist. And if everyone just said you're a dentist, that's what we would do. But because we explore other areas, we develop new identities. And those new identities are the sparks we create. So it's so important to do that. And it's the process. Enjoy the process. Don't keep looking at the end goal. If you keep looking at the end goal, you'll achieve it. And as So many people say once you have a goal, you focus on it, Yeah, focus, but also make sure that you have that open eye. Look through the side of your eyes and make sure that you're not missing out on real fun opportunities that are going to light you up, because that's your natural flow. And perhaps on a philosophical level, that's the purpose of your life. That's why you're brought here.
You say about enjoy the process, and that's probably the biggest lesson in life, really, because the goals will come and go, and you will set another goal, and that's the whole point, is what happens and who you become. You achieve or pursue that goal, because once you achieve it, and I think we've all been there, we look around us and we say, oh, was that it? So what next? I mean, I have fallen into that trap, and the next day of a massive achievement, I would feel depressed, because I thought, oh, so what next now? So I needed to set another one. So I was missing the point completely at that time, that it is the process, the progress, the growth towards the goal that causes the fulfillment. And I think it's the fulfillment which is what we're striving for. We need the security and the safety, of course we do, but that will not fulfill us.
It will not, and when you're not fulfilled, that security isn't there, right? You're thinking more in a scarcity mode. You're thinking more in a fear mode, and this is, I mean, let's think bigger picture. This is why the world's problems have set with us so heavily now, because everyone's thinking scarcity, right? Let's go back to the caveman age, right? At the caveman age, we had to survive, right? So your cognitive energies, your conscious was looking out for danger all the time. It was survival mode. It could be a panther. It could be a, I don't know, what's it called? The lion character. Yeah, something like that. Or it could be somebody from a neighboring tribe, right? Who will come and shoot you with a bow and arrow. But that's how we worked. So we had to think. But, the question I ask people, this is part of the book I'm writing, Agi, and I'll ask you, in today's day and age, would you use a typewriter to send an email to somebody?
Of course not.
No. So asking the audience and yourself the same question, right? In this day and age, would you use those old dial-up telephones to get in touch with somebody?
No.
Right? We don't. Evolved. Then why are we using our brain from the past to solve today's problems? The past brain was developed to think about this saber tooth or to think about this tribesperson who will attack us. But in today's day and place, food is not scarce for us in the Western world, right? You can go to the Tesco, right? The caveman, your other tribesperson, everybody can get food, right? So why are we still thinking that we need to accumulate? Why is there that greed, right? When we can think abundance. Same way, there's no animals there. So the cognitive energy, the conscious focus, all that we used to use to look out for danger is freed up. We have so much free focus. Now, what do? We use that focus to try and look for more dangers, which is why news and all these things alert us, right? The danger that your phone's battery is going to die. The danger that, your car's petrol is going to run out. We continue to use that brain. That's the problem we have. We need to think differently. We need to think abundantly. We need to start thinking like a word processor, not a typewriter, like a mobile smartphone. Use your smart brain, because if you use that cognitive energy correctly, it'll work in your favor. And then suddenly everything's no longer a threat. Everything around you now is an opportunity, because that's where it comes from, that life doesn't happen to you. Life happens for you, because that's the opportunity that arises from there. And that opportunity only comes if you're open-minded again. And openness to experience is what leads to inspirational moments. It's shown scientifically. We were talking about the process and the results, and they've done this study. I mean, you probably have heard of Carol Dweck, who's done a lot on growth mindset. Yes. But beyond that, they have done studies on goal achievement. Okay. Now, if you're constantly focused on the result, only the result, and so you focus on it and you do everything and you reach the result, fine. It's like a performance goal, okay? And you perform. It's very good. You can prove that you've achieved your goal. Brilliant. Clap for you. You can prove that you're good at it. It's not a problem. But the issue is, as long as you can achieve that goal, you'll be fine. What happens when you can't achieve that goal? then that mindset doesn't work. Then the mindset has to step one back into what's called a mastery goal, right? In achieving your goal, it's what mastery you achieve in the process. And therefore, it's the mindset at that point that you will know that sometimes the results may not go as you wish, but let's step back and let's reverse back and learn from that experience. Difficult tasks become better when you have mastery goals rather than performance goals. And the mastery goals are what are your fire. I'm passionate about something. I'm going to get good at that. And I'm going to get good at that because I know myself. That is where the spark and the fire really go. So the passion then leads to inspiration. So your joyous exploration will find your passion. Your passion will lead to inspiration. And that's the bit I love about it. So when you then look at the studies on inspiration, there's not a lot, but there's two guys, Dr Dhr and Andrew Elliott. They developed a constructed passion on three bits. They say it's evocation, transcendence, motivation, right? Now, evocation is something happens within you. You're evoked, whether it's an experience, whether it's another person, whether it's an event, whether it's a picture, something inspires you, right? You have no control over it. Inspiration isn't controllable. You don't go, I'm going to walk to the sun, to the forest today, and I'll be inspired. It just happens, right? Just like those ideas that come to your head and you think, whoa, that's an inspired idea. It just happens. Now, when you evoke evocation, the other thing that happens is something called transcendence. And transcendence basically is that when you get this inspired idea, you can vision something, you can feel something, you can see something that is beyond the limits of what your conscious brain could naturally see. Right? You've had these experiences sometimes. You think, how come that idea never came to me before? Now you're seeing beyond limits. And that is when you're inspired. And the third bit is the motivation, because you're so inspired, you go, I'm going to achieve this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to work around this. And then that's when you then sit down and operate your conscious, your cognitive focus, your caveman brain to sit down and say, how am I going to achieve this? Because the conscious brain is good at working strategy. And that's what the steps you've got to work. But without the immersion, without knowing your spark, you won't develop the passion. Without passion, you're not going to develop inspiration. Without inspiration, the chances of you getting those groundbreaking breakthrough ideas aren't going to happen. And that's the steps to follow through.
That's fantastic, the way you say it, and it really makes sense when you hit a block in your life of any sort, really to take a few steps back and see what is causing it, where is it coming from, rather than looking at the result that you are experiencing, which it is a result, it's not the reason. So the further back you go, inside who you are and your truth, the better answers that you will get. And you mentioned that you can't be inspired, and I'm glad you said that, because there is, many times people use the terms inspiration and motivation interchangeably, but there is a very distinct difference. You can be motivated, you can motivate yourself, but you can't inspire yourself, because inspiration comes from the spirit, as the word says. It's the enthusiasm, the Greek word that means that you have the God or the spirit or the divine inside that moves you towards whatever action or whatever idea that.
I think that's very true, because to me, inspiration is within. It's the fire within, and the passion leads to inspiration, in my viewpoint. So important. Motivate. I suppose we talk about the passion and the fire of passion, and we're talking about sparks and fires. So the best way I'll tell you is inspiration is the fire within, right? A fire inside you. Motivation is someone putting a fire under your bum. So you decide, you can have the fire in your belly or the fire under your bum. And that's what motivation is. A manager can motivate you by telling you, if you don't get your job done today, you'll be fired tomorrow. Right? And that'll motivate you. Yes, it will. Similarly, I can motivate you by saying, I'll give you a bonus. I'll give you a 5 or 10 pound bonus. And you can be motivated like that. Can you hear me okay? Yeah. So you can be motivated like that with a £5 or £10 bonus. But that motivation has a limited lifespan. And in today's world, everybody works on motivation, whether it's a pay, whether it's a reward, whether it's an award. So many people who say, I want an award. External adulation is what people are looking for. Now, we have to have some motivation in life to meet the kind of demands of life, right? Whether to pay the bills. But that's not going to energize you. Inspiration, on the other side, is basically the fire from within. And this goes back to what I said, the spark. Inspiration is the spark. It's when you know yourself, when you understand who you are. And, well, I wouldn't say you understand who you are, never do. You get a deeper understanding of who you are. It's a better way of saying it. You get a deeper comprehension of how you act. Insight is so important. And when you develop that, you suddenly start realizing why certain experiences in the outer world were really resonating with you, and certain experiences in the outer world were not resonating with you. Why certain people were resonating with you, why certain people were not. And somewhere in there lies your spark. And, what I say is when you find your spark, sometimes you'll make it into a living. Sometimes you may transition into making that a living. And sometimes you may not make it a living, but you must do it because it's going to keep your emotional and your spiritual energy up. It's going to stop you from using your typewriter brain. It's going to energize you enough to, think abundantly. And when you have that, when the fire is lit in you, it's not just about you. The step is basically the fire is lit in you. You're going to grow to reach your inspired goals. Whatever inspiration you've got, whatever visions transcended, you'll achieve that. But beyond that, you have to ensure that you use that fire to keep other people warm. Contribution is one of the key things that makes us all absolutely happy. It's been shown in enough studies to say that a big part of happiness is contribution. And imagine if you use your fire to keep other people warm and they find their spark. Now think about, thousands of people who are now finding a spark. Think about that. Think about thousands of sparks going off. What you've just created is fireworks. And fireworks are created when we celebrate. And that's the celebration that we need to think. So, it's so important to find that inspirational purpose that's going to drive you forward.
Mm-hmm.
That's my, yeah.
I love the analogy, the way that you were describing sparks, fires, and warmth and fireworks. It makes sense, complete sense. Dhru, I wanted to ask on a little bit more general subject. I mean, you said that and it makes sense to upgrade and not use the typewriter, use the word processor, and really utilize what is relevant and to this age. And obviously personal development, or the tools of personal development if you want, are the way to upgrade and our cognition into the best standards, the way they are today. I wanted your thoughts on, especially with the current situation, what are your thoughts on personal development? How do you think is more important now than it has ever been? Because I'm asking you that because that's how it feels to me, that right, especially with what's going on now, it has never been a more relevant and pertinent time for someone to upgrade, shall we say, their way of thinking, their belief systems, their cognition, their personality.
Yeah. I think, look, if we go really deep down, we are who we are because of the beliefs and the values we hold. Mm-hmm. Those beliefs and values we hold have come to us from three things, right? One of them is your DNA, okay? It's been passed on from generations to generations. And part of our scarcity caveman typewriter thinking comes from that, okay? So like it or not, right, your great-great-great-great-grandfather is still alive in you. So that's part of that. And that's the sort of nature bit. The second part of our belief and value systems, our development, happens when we're nurtured in the first few years of our life as part of development. And the third part of things happen because of experience. Okay, and experience creates this within you. And the strongest experiences create the strongest memories. Memories in something you can't trust, but when you have something with extreme emotion attached to it, or it's the first or last thing in a series, you'll remember it. That's where the belief and value systems come in. Now sit back and think how much you've been influenced by the culture you've grown up in, by the society, by media, things like that. In the current world, that is the result of what we've seen, right? A lot of scarcity thinking, which is what your belief and value systems have created an identity out of you. Identity is simply you expressing what you believe in, what you hold valuable, which is why I say go back to knowing yourself, because when you know yourself and you try and get a deeper understanding of yourself, you figure out what are the good things you hold valuable and what are the things you hold valuable which are for your own self-survival. And then you figure out the good things you hold valuable that can contribute to other people and use those as your spark. And we need that at this point in time. Personal development is possibly the biggest tool the world needs to create an awareness of every single human on the planet. I mean, we have the best transport network in the world we've ever had. We've had the best food distribution network in the world we've ever had, the best technology. All of this, we're sharing information now through this. And yet, how can we have conflict in the world? Yet, how can we have certain parts of the world where there's hunger going through? I don't understand that, right? In terms of there's no logic. The logic is because enough people have spent their life reacting and responding to external events in life. Personal development is now the most important thing standing in people's way. Develop an insight of yourself. And there are two things to insight, by the way. Insight isn't just you knowing yourself, because you'll be biased. Insight is about other people telling you about yourself as well. So it's internal and external feedback. When you develop insight, you get a greater awareness of yourself. You get a greater sense of abundance of where you can give for contribution to people while serving people. And of course, you can make a living out of it if you feel, as I said earlier. And then that's what we need to do to create a greater human race. More collaboration, less confrontation. That's what I sit at.
I 100%, and this, especially this time, what's going on, really makes it imperative for us for people to really step up and change. We can't sustain anymore what has been going on, and if we succumb to the fear or the primitive brain and let our decisions for the future be based on safety, on scarcity, as you were saying earlier, then I think humanity is in trouble. So I'm really hoping that things, the awareness that you mentioned is awakening, and there will soon be enough people who are aware enough to make a significant movement that will kind of shake everyone else, because you know very well that still the majority are far from aware, unfortunately. But I suppose that's part of the mission that you, me, and others are on. It's with their own way to increase that awareness towards. I want to look at it as a new version of humanity, where there is indeed.
I think also the other factor to put here is not just awareness. It's also the fact that the beliefs and values you hold are your identity. They're who you are. And if you really went down to it, they are your biochemistry. They are the chemicals in your system. And the big challenge you have here is that if you suppose if you change your values, if you change the way you express externally, you're changing your identity. You're changing yourself neurochemically. There's huge change there, even in the smallest of value things, right? Even the smallest thing like, I don't know, changing your diet in the morning from 2 biscuits to 2 Weetabix. All right, it's a small change, but it's a big step. because you have to change a lot of things from the belief and value that Weetabix is healthy, or you may have said, actually, it's not the best tasting, to make it the best tasting, whatever it is. It's your identity that completely alters. And humans are not that adept to changing identity. We say we're very good at adaptation and change. I tend to doubt that sometimes. And in fact, there's a good book. It's called Immunity to Change, which I know I've written by Keegan Leahy. That's a really good book as well. It tells you we are immune to these things in a very different way. And as humans, we never act irrationally. That's the other factor. We're driven irrationally by emotion, ultimately. If we thought rationally, then none of us would be smoking. If we thought rationally, then we would all be going for 1 hour jogs every day, right? We're not. We think about an irrational way in which we're going to be emotionally satisfied. So changing your identity is going to wreak havoc with the emotional satisfaction you have. So beyond awareness, it's about how, even when somebody is aware, you create the route for change. And that becomes important. Roots for change then sit onto the fact that you're influenced by the people around you. You're influenced by what you feed into you. And if you look at people around you, social change, social confirmation, it's so important. If you want to change, if you want to create awareness, hang around the people who are doing that. It's been shown enough times that whether you talk about mirror neurons, whether you talk about social influence, whatever, it works on you. Because otherwise, you will always, there's something, the dopamine in your brain. There's just a recent study I've read, and I've just ordered the book, but basically anything you read or say that confirms to your beliefs gives you a dopamine hit. Now, think about that. If I have to change you and it doesn't confirm to your beliefs, you're not going to get that dopamine hit. What's that going to do to you?
I want to do it. I don't want to do that. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think that's the big change we all have to sit and think very carefully about. And I think it goes back right into the younger generation, not in education, telling people, find their spark, encourage creativity. Don't encourage academia that enhances exam passing. Encourage creativity in young, growing children, teenagers. Encourage them to express themselves and create that social conditioning at that point. And in that hope that will then deliver purposeful change as they grow older. And what we miss in all of this is leadership. Now, leadership is key in initiating moving change, because you will change if it starts matching your goals. Mm-hmm. You will change if something is valuable to your goals. And how can we merge goals together? Whatever your goal is, whatever the goal of the person next to it is based on certain needs. It's our needs that transfer into goals, ultimately, right? Whether we know it subconsciously or consciously. Can we merge those needs of people? Because if we merge the needs of people, then I think all of us as humanity will work together in a more positive tone. Yeah, that's what I would say. I probably deviated into a bit more social areas.
I love the merging. It's very inspiring, Dhru. I actually want to start, it's fascinating. I want to ask you a couple of quick fire questions as well, because I wanted to get your thoughts on this. So first one I always ask is, what does personal development mean to you?
Becoming a better version of yourself to improve humanity.
That's great. I like the twist in the end. Yeah, because it's not personal, is it? It starts from you, but it's for us.
It's like the sun, isn't it? You're asking what do the sun rays mean? It means the sun's got to give out more rays to light up the universe.
Dhru, tell me, if you could meet your 18-year-old self and you could give him a piece of advice, what would you say?
I'd say don't do dentistry. Believe in what you do and go and do it. Be your creative self. Express yourself. And don't follow the linear path that life tells you.
Amazing. Is there anything that you were really hoping we would discuss today and we completely bypassed it?
I think we've had a good conversation in understanding these elements, really. And perhaps I think it's about, the more and more I've thought about the science of passion, the science of motivation, understanding neuroscience, I've probably said that the main thing is people have got to start finding their spark. Because when you truly, I've got a phrase and it says, if you don't care, you wouldn't be inspired enough. If you're not inspired enough, you won't learn about it. Yeah. If you truly care, you'll find the inspiration, you'll find the time, you'll find the resourcefulness to actually do your learning about it, to become a better version of yourself and to help others as well. And so finding that spark, finding that thing that makes you thrive is the key. It'll show you what you're good at, it'll show you what your passion is, and it'll probably show you what the world needs as well. Such a key aspect. And I think that's what I wanted to focus on today massively, which we have done well. And that's where it all starts from. In finding your spark, you will find a lot of resistance. People who don't believe in you, people who wonder what the hell you're doing, people who think you're mental, whatever. Just believe in yourself. Hope and faith are perhaps two of the biggest things that we carry. Hope and faith. Without hope and faith, we are nothing. Now, I'm not saying be optimistic. You've got to be realistic and optimistic at the same time. Optimism is saying I'll achieve my goal no matter what happens. Realism is about knowing the obstacles that are in the way, but knowing you'll overcome those obstacles to reach the goal. That's hope and faith, that things will work your way. Ultimately, that's personal development for you. Personal development is you're going to meet challenges. You've got to keep pushing beyond them. If you truly believe in something, then please keep doing it. I think that's the main key to say.
A very empowering message, Dhru. How can people connect with you and find out more about who you are?
They can find me on Facebook, Dhru Shah. They can find me on Twitter at Dentinal Tubules. Instagram, I'm Dhru at Dentinal Tubules. And if people want to email me at the moment, you can get me on dentinaltubules@gmail.com. I'm pretty approachable. If you can't get hold of me and you really want to speak to me, get hold of Agi. He'll get hold of me very quickly. So that's not a problem as well. I think, Agi, how many podcasts have you reached now?
This is my new podcast now is almost 10,000 downloads now.
Amazing. I mean, what you started as a journey a few years ago is phenomenal. And
yeah, true. It's been an amazing, and I would love to really document it more than I do, because it's I'm realizing many things that everyone realizes once they reach a certain level. They look back and realize that the journey, what we have been through, what needs to happen in order to go there, whereas the others see where you are. They don't see the road that you've been on and that's I know that everyone can relate to that once they've done it, so I'm realizing that myself very much. So
and I think part of that road is going back and when I say knowing yourself, reflecting and self-authoring, as I would say, really brings out a top journey. It brings out your qualities, brings out your values. So much more comes out of it. And I think it's powerful. What you're achieving is very powerful.
Thank you very much for this conversation. I find it fascinating and some very useful things that we discussed. All the very best with you, both personally and professionally. Any last parting words?
I guess I'll tell you what, I think my last parting thing to anybody is going to say that don't look out for leadership in others. If you want to go somewhere, become the leader yourself. Think about a jigsaw puzzle. If you don't know the pieces of the jigsaw that make you up, you're not going to know what from the outside can fit into your puzzle. So the key is become the leader that leads yourself.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe and rate Personal Development Mastery on Apple Podcasts, and also share this episode with someone who you think will benefit from it. If you want to become part of an exclusive community, gain access to unique content, and at the same time support this podcast, then become my patron. The link is in the show notes, or you can type bit.ly/pdmpat. If you want to know more about what I do and how I can help you, join my Facebook group Personal Development Mastery. Again, the link is in the show notes, or you can simply type bit.ly/pdmgroup. And until next time, stand out, don't fit in,